Coach, Nick Savage and the work that they did in the offseason, you happy with it? And some of the guys that were carried over from last year on the previous team, what noticeable changes they see going from a new strength coach from last year?
Yeah, I think that strength coach is extremely critical and one of the most important people in the entire building, because they have them so much in the off season before we even have them. And having Coach Savage with us before and having done a great job with us was really critical. And to have him here right away to hit the ground running was really important. And he's done a great job with them. I think a number of kids, you can ask the returning ones their opinion, but I don't want to speak for them, but you see a lot of body changes, and guys have really done a good job. So a lot of credit to him. He's as good as anybody I've ever been around.
Lane, you guys obviously added a lot of receivers out of the transfer portal this offseason. I'm just curious, kind of, how do you sort of navigate that when you're working through fall camp? And I guess where are you guys at maybe in terms of what you're evaluating and what you're noticing among that group of guys?
Yeah, I think it would be a bigger deal if if we'd been here. If you think about it, all the players, really, whether they were here or not, are new to us offensively. So I don't think it makes a big a deal, how many at each position were here versus weren't. Now defense, that's different. So no one had a head start on anybody. So they're all basically new. And we retooled that room, almost from top to bottom. And it's been very competitive. It's really one of the better rooms from the bottom of it, the competition down there and the quality of it, which is important because not just do those guys play, but even below them, that's what make your practices better because they're the service team that you're going against. So we try to really make every slot on the roster better every chance that we have.
Coach, what did you see out of Eric Wolford to bring him on as your offensive line coach, and then also bringing back James Craig, who obviously was part of the national championship team, those two guys working together on your offensive line?
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a better pair in the country. You get two big-time SEC line coaches together here, and one with great history, obviously, at the program here and the national championship and the Joe Moore Award, and both have coached in the NFL. So we're very fortunate to have that. It's really easy to recruit to, and they're really good technique coaches. I'd not worked with Eric before. Had always heard good things about him. Coach Saban called about him. Really raved about him when he had him, and then we brought him in, and he did a great job.
Coach, we haven't seen Damian Shanklin out there. Is there an update on his status?
Yeah, he is not practicing with the team right now, and that's all I can comment on that.
Hey, Lane, what do you see in Trey'Dez Green? Does he change the math for you? And if you want to just speak about maybe the evolution of the tight end position and how it's being utilized now.
Yeah, I think on the change, now that I'm kind of becoming an older coach, you have the history of this, and they were much more inline and physical blockers. We actually talked about it the other day that maybe a traditional guy that was even maybe a college All-American and high draft pick nowadays would not be valued near as much because so much is about the passing game and off the ball and movement. So the game's changed a little bit that way, especially in college. And he really fits that mode, kind of converted receiver type of guy, basketball player. So he's a really great weapon to have and be able to use, and catching range and radius is off the charts. So we're really glad he's here and look forward to trying to use him in different ways.
Hey, Kish, right here. With Jaden Brecker, what kind of came down to the decision to move him to the edge, and how important is it for players to have that versatility to move to a position to fill in a gap when needed to?
Just really looking at him in his length, wanted to try to see how he looked rushing and playing on the edge, and he's done a really good job there. And that's again, kind of like what we just talked about with Trey'Dez. A lot of times those are how the players move size-wise. If you get that frame and can run like he does, and then as they continue to put on years, they put on weight, and then they grow into that spot. So it's been a really good project so far.
Coach over here. How important is this week, Coach? 2 days for full pads for the first time, first scrimmage on Saturday, more contact. What do you want to find out about your football team from a toughness standpoint this week?
Yeah, we got a tackle, which we avoided a lot in the spring, just trying to get things done and stay healthy. And, you have to at some point because we got to make sure that we're ready, especially, with our schedule set up. You have an extremely hard opener, one of the best programs in the country, so you don't really have a progression to try to maybe treat that game a little bit differently, where you can start tackling in the game more and maybe be a little bit rusty. We can't afford that in this opener, so this will be a week in pads where we see them tackle on Saturday and also see them go against tackling.
Hey, Coach over here, your practice schedule has been a little, just different, I guess you could say. You've been rotating between mornings and evenings. Is there, what's your philosophy behind that, and have you done that previously before in the past?
Yeah, we have. We came up with it, and I think really explaining it to too much length is a little bit competitive disadvantage because I don't think a lot of people do it. So, but there's a lot of thought into that, and it's very player friendly for the long term of camp and for the long term of the season.
Obviously, last year, the offensive line was the biggest issue here at LSU. Bringing Braylon back, how important was that to have him come back?
Well, I don't know that obviously that was the biggest issue, but running backs have to run too. Okay, so that goes. A lot of people have to do with the running game, so it's important to get him back. He's a really good player and really good leader and really strong in there. So really glad to have him.
Hey, Lane, it's only been a few days, I guess, but what's been your review of Sam so far now that he's practicing fully? And does it influence your preseason plan in any way because there's sort of that compressed amount of time with him at full strength like you have?
Sam's had a great week. Had a great practice today, taking care of the ball, really throwing the ball really accurate and on time, and extremely pleased with his week and how he looks. We have high standards how we want things and what we want them to look like, and probably it was probably unrealistic what I was expecting him to look like when he can't move and he's, just throwing without really having his weight to be able to push into. So now that he's healthy, he's had a great week. We're really excited about him.
Hey, what was your main selling point while you were recruiting Sam, and what did you maybe keep coming back to convince him to come to LSU?
Well, I just think our quarterback development's an easy thing to sell. How well people play in a short period of time with us. Not that they don't have to come and wait a year and learn. And him projected to miss spring a lot and not be fully cleared in spring, we kind of sold, well, hey, look what just at the last place, without a spring, what the quarterback was able to do. We brought in pieces around him, and so I think it's kind of an easy sell. And then you're playing it here, playing quarterback at LSU, which has been a pretty good move the last 10 years.
Coach, any chance Gabe Relaford comes back this season?
I do not think so.
I don't know the question to ask, but it's relationships with Sam and either you or Charlie. How important is that dynamic to develop, in the film room, just regular conversations, and where is that as far as where you want it to be?
Yeah, I think that Charlie and Sam have done a great job. They have a great relationship. I think that in our projection or kind of trajectory of how it happens, usually that happens first when they get here. There's more interaction with his position coach like that or play caller. And then I feel like mine comes more in the fall now with them, and just kind of over time as we've gotten the transfers over the years, that's just kind of how it's projected. So those guys are doing really well, communicating really well, which is extremely important with the helmet communication. There's a lot of things that have to get worked out in that didn't have to happen in communication between two guys, back and forth both ways. So it's really important. No, Charlie does most of it. Mine will be more as we get closer to games and certain plays in certain situations or handling emotions of the game or situations in the game, because I'm down there and Charlie's up, so I can be in front of him.
Just wanted to give you a chance to comment on this with Prince Will and Devin Harper. How aware were you of the buyout situation potentially with Ole Miss when you brought them in the portal, and how are you hoping that would be resolved once they came here?
Yeah, I don't really get into that, and that sounds like a legal matter, so I don't have a comment.
Is Dylan Jones continuing to lead and impress at the running back position? And when you bring in a new guy like that, how much does he motivate the veterans at that position to maximize their carries when they get a chance?
Yeah, Dylan's done great. Really has had a great week too, and it's kind of taken off from where he did in the spring. So we're really pleased with that. And you say motivate the veterans, which I get, but they're not that old. The two guys, and so one's been here 2 years, one of their only one. So they still have a lot of work to go and can improve. And so we're pleased with where they're at now, but we want to push them more. And really what's crazy, you start thinking about these guys, and I don't even know how they're going to be termed, whether super seniors or whatever. All those guys now have an extra year. So really you kind of rethink your long-term projection of positions and plans. And I mean, it's crazy to think, like, DJ Pickett has 4 more years now. Not that that's going to happen. But when we changed our board into their colors of their years and how much eligibility they have left, it was kind of crazy to watch. Whit Weeks has another year.
Kind of speaking of that, Lane, the district court judge's ruling saying that guys from the class of 22 can have this year eligible. Would you even look at anybody? Is that too disruptive? I mean, have you considered looking at anybody who might have another year left?
We look at everything, I think, and so we would be prepared for that. But I don't know what that would mean. You always got to look at who they are and how do they learn your systems and all those things to come that late. I do think, since you asked, that those kids should be able to go anywhere. They haven't been with programs for 7 months. And the programs that they were at, the coaches have changed at a number of them, and they didn't have a portal window. So I do think, her ruling seems like it's headed the right direction on that these kids should, if they get a 5th year, they should be able to go wherever they want. Any conference, anywhere, because they didn't have a chance. So, and there's going to be places that don't want them back. Because they're full or they don't need that position or there's new coaches there. So it'd be really a shame for anyone to limit these kids to where they could go back to, NCAA or conferences.
Bryson Martinez out of EA, in high school, he played all over everything. You guys are not afraid to kind of tinker with stuff like that. How do you plan on using him?
Well, he's just got to compete, and he's got a lot of talent, a lot of length, and so really good, talented young player that we're really excited about. So it's early in camp. We'll see.
Yeah, Coach. Bo Bordelon's been one of the, I think, bigger off-season stories for you guys in terms of earning some, increased reps. It looked like he was out there in the spring at left guard. Just what about his story? What about his off-season has kind of led him to kind of have this opportunity to potentially be a starter for you guys?
He's earned it. He's practiced really well in the spring, worked out really hard, and learned the playbook. It's all a new playbook, obviously, and done a really good job. And so you guys have probably heard me say before, people don't play here by how many stars they are or what their contract is or where they're from, what state they're from, or who their dad is. So that's not how we do it. He's earned it and done a really good job, and we're excited about that.
Coach, have you ever had 3 freshman D linemen like Gerald, Anderson, and Lamar? And what is the advantage of being able to bring defensive guys like that into your program in the first year?
Yeah, I don't think we have. There's a 4th too in there that's doing a really good job, Henderson. But yeah, I don't. And I talked to Ed about that. I was kind of thinking all the places over the years we've been, and even when we've been together or separate, and neither of us has had that. It's really unique to have nowadays, because now they're more spread out usually. Where before you could take more numbers, and so maybe then you hit on some and got that. But it's really exciting. All of them have a chance to play. Those three specifically are playing a lot, and it's really exciting in an age that, you know, a lot of people play older portal players. You know, it's kind of been lost a little bit of significant freshmen playing because there's challenges with playing them too. You know, they make more mistakes. So, and with a challenging schedule and the way that it's set up now and more competitive than ever, it's even harder to have some of those games early. So it's really awesome situation to be in. All right, guys, thank you. Take questions right away.
How you guys doing? Doing good. Yep.
Sam over here.
Yep.
Coming from Arizona State, A, do you have a relationship with Jaden Daniels? Have you talked to him before? And B, more importantly, how much have you and the other quarterbacks locked in on the virtual reality technology and the advantages of that?
Yeah, I haven't been in contact with Jaden, but, you know, hearing just great things about him at ASU and at LSU, so nothing but respect for him, but no, I've not been in contact. Yeah, and I mean, you know, Jack Marucci and his whole staff with the virtual reality stuff, you know, it's just been a blessing to come here, have resources like that. People are really pouring to the entire organization from all cylinders, so, you know, just taking advantage of that as much as possible. Obviously, you know, going through fall camp right now is difficult. There's not that much time, you know, but grinding as much as I can, and it's incredible to be able to see reps live. You know, it's almost like a live rep without taking the toll on your body. So it's been a blessing.
Yeah, Sam, Glenn West with On Three. Just wondering if you could take us back to January and just your process of getting to LSU, your conversations with Coach Kiffin, and how you could fit into this offense and be the next quarterback here. Just what was that whole process like for you? And I guess just kind of walk us through it through your eyes.
Yeah, portal process was pretty crazy. I didn't expect it to go in that direction, just the whole situation, you know. And then when I came out here, took my visit, just kind of fell in love with the place. Fell in love with the vision, and you know, LSU, you walk around and it's a historic place, and just been so many great players to come out of here, and then you view, you know, the players that you're going to play against every day in practice, going up against guys like Whit Weeks and TJ Daugherty, you know, and Ty Benefield. It's a special situation for me to be in, just to be able to grind every single day and get better. That's ultimately the end goal, and you know, to come here and be with this staff, you know, it's a situation where I don't really see how anyone can pass it up.
I have a two-parter for you. So the first question is, you're known as a film junkie. When did that start, and do you feel like that has helped you, especially with your situation being hurt in the spring?
Yeah, I think that really started from my brother. Kind of instilled that in me, you know, probably ninth grade. Just started to kind of learn the game. I remember in ninth grade, I was like, oh, cover three, throw a seam ball. You know, stuff like that. It was awesome just having him in my life. You know, he went on to play 6 years in the NFL at 5'10", so you kind of have to be pretty special, you know, mentally to be able to do that. So he instilled that in me, and kind of just took it from there, and then just learned to love the game more and more, and, you know, the intricacies of the game. And I think, you know, that's one of the best parts about it is, like, how well can you segment football in your life? Because you kind of have to compartmentalize it, you know, to be able to, like, constantly grind all day, every day, in my opinion. So, like, viewing the game in that way, that it's so fun mentally, you know, it's just a way to be able to grind and constantly get better without getting burnout, you know, because the year is going to be a long year, and you just got to love it on a different level.
And how much of a cheat code is it having someone like Trey'Dez Green?
Yeah, Trey'Dez is great. You know, just I always say every time Trey'Dez's name gets brought up, you know, puts a smile on my face, and he walks into the building and he puts a smile on your face. So what a special human. And then on top of that, you know, you watch him on the field and it's just a wow factor. So you put the ball within any vicinity of him and he's going to go make the play.
Hey, Sam, over here on your right, Trip Bueller with the LSU Reveille. So going from the Arizona Heat to the Louisiana Heat and in a fast-paced offense, just how are you feeling from a conditioning standpoint now, a week into camp?
Yeah, shout out to Coach Savage and the staff. You know, they did a great job with us over the summer, just preparing us for that. You know, it is different, but something I had to get used to, especially holding the ball in the humidity. But, you know, it's something that you gotta use to your advantage at this point, so people got to come and play us in these conditions. It is different for sure, but after the last few months in summer and working on all fall camp, like you just kind of have to embrace it. It's a different heat, but I'm not minding it too much now.
Hey, Sam, LSU tweeted some video of you running around, throwing. We all get asked, how's Sam? How's his foot? Can he run? How healthy is he? How would you describe where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% right now, and I've been 100% for the past few months. Just want to show a lot of love to Dallas and the whole staff, just constantly grinding, getting me back. And like my health is one thing that I take very seriously. Whether it's the food I eat, the way I sleep, the way I recover. So it was really never a question for me. You can ask everyone from everywhere I've been. That's kind of something that I prioritize in my life, I think on kind of an extreme level. So yeah, I'm, ready to go.
Sam, two-parter, both very important. New to Louisiana, what's been your favorite part or your favorite food spot here in Baton Rouge? And then also, saw a video of you dunking over the goalpost this summer. There's only like 4 basketball players on the team right now. Any chance you're going to have to suit up for Will Wade's squad this upcoming year?
Yeah, no, the people are great in Louisiana. The passion, just walking down the street is pretty incredible. Just, the way that they love the state and put on for the state, it just makes you want to be here even more. People around the facility just showing so much love to Baton Rouge and the entire area. It's just been a blessing being out here. I didn't think, I really didn't even, I'm from Oregon, so Louisiana kind of felt almost fake to me in a way. I didn't think it was a real place. But after being out here, I just love the trees, and I've always wanted to be in the South. The humidity obviously was something I had to get used to, but I love it now. I love the way it makes my skin feel and, everything like that. So it's been amazing. Sorry, what was your last question? They need me to suit up and they'll let me go. I'm ready.
I think football needs your ACLs here. We heard the story about Lane following you to Tennessee to, have a second meeting with you. I guess however much you want to share about that, I'd love to hear kind of how that went down, where you saw him, where you met him. And then the other thing is just that relationship building with him, right? You get 2 really good offensive minds that are committed to making you better, right? So, how does that evolve and work?
Yeah, I don't really want to go too much into the portal process, but yeah, he definitely did some great tactics from his side, and ultimately made the decision to come here, so that all worked out. But yeah, just building the relationship with the guys upstairs in the office. I think they really see my passion for the game, and I see theirs. I'd say this staff, is probably the hardest working staff I've been around, and it's a blessing for me to be held accountable in that way. And just constantly grind, I just keep saying, we've been grinding because that's really what it's been. It's been a grind since I got here in January. So just being around them and them seeing my work ethic and me seeing theirs, I think, the relationship just blossoms from there, and, winning helps a little bit as well. So probably down the road, it's going to get a little even better.
Hey, Sam. Corey Diaz with the Daily Advertiser. I guess it's kind of a 2-parter too. The last several months for you, what's been the hardest part, just recovering from the foot injury that you suffered? And then how would you just sort of assess how difficult and or easy it was to maybe just sort of revert back to the type of player that you were before you got injured?
Yeah, I'd say it was definitely more challenging within the first, 4 or 5 months. I had a second surgery where I got the pins pulled, so I have no hardware in my foot right now. And initially after that, I thought it was kind of, just going to snap back into being full go. That's just how my brain works. But yeah, just going through the process and keeping my head down and putting in the work and understanding that, delayed gratification was a big thing for me. How much can I put in the work without seeing just immediate results? And then after, I kind of figured out something with the whole medical staff on was kind of limiting some of my foot coming back after that surgery. It kind of just popped from there, and it's just been incredible. I really don't think about it out on the field at all. Just have to obviously warm it up a little bit before practice, but just keeping on my routine and everything at night, it's really zero thought process for me.
Hey, Sam, right here in the middle. The decision to go to Dallas with your receiving crew and tight end, was that your idea? And how did you decide to get what group together? Just break it down, that whole trip.
Yeah, it was, a thought process I had coming into the year. It's something I've always wanted to do. Hop on a PJ, go with the guys, go train. Sounds like a pretty good situation, huh? Yeah, no, it was incredible, and shout out to Gordon for making it happen. Just hit up my guy, JR Belton, and, he makes stuff happen. So told him what I wanted, made it happen in about 4 days. Told the guys and hopped on the plane, went down to Dallas. Went and trained and put in some good work with Jeff Christensen. Learned some things, got to go spend quality time with them, see them, in a little different scenarios. When you wake up in the same, we just rented an Airbnb, so we woke up in the same house. It's kind of different being in a situation like that versus just hanging out with them on the regular, because you see how people are when, maybe their social battery's out and they don't want to talk to people or everything like that. But, it really created a tighter bond with us. And, I was just very grateful to be able to do that with them before the fall camp popped out, and it's just going to blossom from their relationships. So it's a great time in my life. Appreciate you guys.